I am your host, Patrick Connors. 100,000 Poets for Change has been going on for a number of years now. Michael Rothenberg and Terry Carrion started it in California. It's become a worldwide movement. There are events today in over 100 different countries around the world. So let's give it up for that. This evening we were going to have a wonderful performance by my friend and great poet, Nick Beat. However, Nick had passed away 9 days ago, but being the true artist that he is, he would say that the show must go on. So tonight we are performing this event in honor of Nick. I have the honor of beginning the evening by bringing to the stage Opa to perform a water blessing.
Osio. I'd like to welcome you in the order of appearance, the Chiliwa, the Mountain People, also known as the Cat People, Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit. I myself have of Tsalagi ancestry. I am a Anigadowi, I'm a potato. In the south, in the north, I'm a bear, protector, and a medicine person. I hold responsibilities as a firekeeper for the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe. I am an Akik, a daykeeper for the Maiakiche. And this is happening quietly underneath everything. The people of this land, of Apia Yalla, have a covenant with Creator and creation. And in this time of turmoil and seeming chaos, we will not relent our covenant with Creator or creation. So take hope and take heart that we will perceive the necessary means to move through this terrible period. The prophecies are complete. The warnings have been spoken fairly to the people over the years, and so few have listened. So expect some turbulence, but it can be ameliorated by opening of the hearts and coming once again into the unison of being. Awareness follows water. In 2003, Neil Clifford asked if I would open the Flowing Waters occasion 1 and 2. And I sat for a time, and this was my offering, and it's very much relevant. Manu, Dorikuri, Udanu, Hasu Yagi, Amayi Diati Iyi, Una Lihi Listi Yu Wado, Dune, Guhe, Tila Dia, Gali Iliga, Salagi, Elo. Persons of soul, truth, and feeling choose to take to the water of purification. With thanksgiving, joining our blankets, giving thanks for the teachings. Nigada, Hali Iliga, Azgaya Gulanlati, Osida, Aniyun Viva, Aho. Aho. With great joy, we are ever grateful for this gift of life.
He's going to come up here and read one poem for us that he wrote specifically for this event. So please give a warm welcome to Sean Ratcliffe.
It's not so much a poem as writing. This has been an interesting and challenging year globally for so many. As a planet, we have had to deal with drastic changes in weather patterns, politics, disease, and unprecedented wars. On a personal side, I've dealt with the health issues of my mother and subsequent passing, falling from a roof and the subsequent issues it has caused, the wrongful arrest due to the lies by my landlord, the loss of my apartment, strained relations with my sisters, children, and my fiance. And like you and the rest of the world, we carry on. We've persevered and overcome what life has dealt many of us. The other day I came to the realization that the world I grew up knowing and feeling comfortable being a part of no longer exists. In 1976, this country that we call home lost its innocence. We hosted a world event, the Olympics, and we were drawn into the real world, and yet we ignored the signs. As a citizen, life went on without myself, my friends, my neighbors, and most of the rest of the country not noticing. Terrorism existed before, even inside our own border, the FLQ. But today, communications have changed. With the advent of the all news, all the time, life has transformed. Small towns that didn't exist on my globe or in my atlas were now front and center of my TV and my computer. We became bored with our lives and were drawn into the lives of our global neighbors. Their language and culture, so unfamiliar, and yet their issues became ours. As a country, we started to transform. I look back and realized that our population expanded, our rights and freedoms became more and more constrained. Those we elected and trusted with our lives and our future changed the rules. Laws created but not communicated. Taxes raised, citizens hurting, borders opened, education forgotten. Perfect? Definitely not. As we welcomed our neighbors, they brought their culture, and some brought their country's issues and strife. Slowly, our culture evolved. Our innocence was forced to the side. Society became less social. The dawn of the electronic age furthered the gap between strangers. Our doors became locked. Chats over the fence moved to a smartphone. Children playing in the streets until dark itself went dark. We are all victims. Victims of a changing world that our generation fostered. A world that is changing in nanoseconds as opposed to centuries. Conflict is everywhere as everyone struggles with the new reality. We live in turmoil as we wrestle to amalgamate our differences. Successful or not, it is the future. Our existence depends on it. We opened the door a crack and now it is revolving. We are helping global neighbors while our children and future generations are not cared for. We do not have a succession or a recession plan. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not a politician, but I have lived the past and fear where we are heading unless we change. The economy has changed to a more global market, but politics remains buried in the Middle Ages. Some countries' politics are focused internally, while others seem to have an idea about an integrated global political idea. The European Union and the former Soviet Union both were selective versions. Both were very different, obviously, as one is a democratic model and the other a communist regime, but both had their good points. As I look at our world and a little of its history, I start to realize that wealth is for a select few, whether it be an individual, or a country, or a continent. Our origins, to a certain degree, dictate our future worth. Some of our oldest habituated regions are by far some of our poorest, and the youngest habitats are the richest. That would seem to indicate something that many have thought and done. If you don't like where you are, go somewhere else and start new. Start a new country and new rules. And history shows us that. But it's time to rethink that formula and apply it to a new world. To a world where those in the most impoverished regions are not left behind. Where the rich can get rich, but the poor don't become destitute. A world where wars are in boardrooms, not in city streets. Where you and I can travel and not worry about our safety. Currently, we have a large number of regions that are suffering for a number of different reasons. Some are due to climate, some are suffering the ravages of war, all in the name of religion, one of the worst reasons for conflict. Some countries choose to control and help, others just want to control. And we've seen that this year. We've also continued to see small but growing groups of extremists exert control on different regions for a multitude of reasons. But it all comes down to wanting the same thing, a better life. The problem is that we all want the same thing, but we define it differently depending on the region we live in. For some, it is as simple as having clean water. For others, it is religious freedom. And for others, it is living a life without constraints applied by others. And that is part of the problem. We all need rules and guidelines in place, perhaps not so much to conform, but to maintain peace and civility, to care for the truly needy. Change is what our world needs, each of us looking at ourselves and our neighbor, whether he is next door or around the world. We have a planet that we all live on and live off. We need to change how we see the world and come together as one people living by the same rules and guidelines globally. Borders were for kings and dictators. They will continue to come in the future, but there's no room in this world for them. We need a world where decisions are made for the good of all people. Our world needs to grow in all regions, not just the richest. We need decisions made globally, not regionally. It is both efficient and financially beneficial to all. There will always be those that will try to exploit the weak, the ignorant, but it is them that is ignorant. The choice for the future is for all of us to decide. What is yours?
Translator living in Toronto. Her first chapbook, Our Lady of the Snow Angels, was published by Lyrical Miracle Press in 2012. She believes that, when combined with action, poetry can really change the world. And if anybody can do that, it's Jeannie. Jeannie Pitas, everybody.
So I'm going to begin this evening with a translation that I did of a poem by an Uruguayan poet called Selva Casal. And I'm reading this in honor of Nick Beat because he heard me read this on an occasion and really liked it. So this is in honor of Nick Beat, Exterminating Angel by Selva Casal. We had said we'd die together, but we looked at each other in a white mirror, slowly studying each other one last time. Some memories were hanging like tassels from the quilt of an unmade bed. Now you're alone, just as the dawning day is alone. Alone like a shipwreck, or the offspring of a queen in a treeless land. Without shadow, without comfort. Once again, the pain. Now you can open your wings, my fetus, my refuge, sweet skeleton of the night. For you, I bore all the world's children. For you, I am mother of the dew, lover of fireflies and hibiscus, all the men I touch and see. Whoever meets me meets the world, this sad planet. I know so well what you said those nights. You were my raging angel, the extermination I fell in love with. And I'll fall in love again with your viscid ruin, your violated tongue, your mouth. Wounded men fly in airplanes, departing. This is why we cry. We've lost everything. Offender of forgetting, pearl of misfortune. Nobody knows we were happy. Stars fell in cascades over our heads. An empty house. The empty house of time. A house harassed by dragons of light and death sparks. Come to me, you said. I'd like to remember how it was, but there's a hell inside my head. My wounded heart has gone crazy. I thought that the sun gave off light, that the dead slept. I didn't know anything. One Cro-Magnon man strikes another. One 20th century man strikes another. To do justice is terrible. It means reviving corpses, making them live again. Cities I can't see climb up my legs. We learned how time slips into our shoes at dawn, how tomorrow we'll go around naked, looking for the sister who lived inside the clock. When it was so much, the impossible pain, we learned from the volcanoes and dinosaurs how to destroy ourselves. The drowned man didn't appear. The world will be no more. I feel the fury of animals in heat, the howl of the primitive man, of primitive light over sleeping bones in dead craters. From my words spring forth centaurs, voices I don't know. There's an exterminating angel in sex, and there was pain when he flew away from my dream. I remained alone at dawn, and then got up to look for him, and he said nothing. I felt his nothingness inside, the nights and the anguish, long hours while the birds were awakening, and the sad moon was shining, dark as the sea. The poem I'll do is my own. I'm wearing this tag today in honor of Adolfo Ich, who was a Guatemalan man, a community leader in a community in Guatemala that was affected by a mine owned and operated by a Canadian mining company. And this gentleman was fighting on behalf of his community for justice, peacefully. And he ended up being murdered 5 years ago on this day by the head of security of a company that was employed by the Canadian mining company that was operating there, Hudbay Minerals. So this has been 5 years. My poem this evening is called The System, and it begins with an epigraph from Lisa Robertson. The system shines with uninterrupted light. I see grass and clouds and blenders stirring morning mango smoothies. There is the Brooklyn Bridge and Union Square with Hare Krishnas singing to their drums, buskers reciting Shakespeare, a woman blowing enormous bubbles that children rush to break. There are subways and rats and robotic voices apologizing for delays. There are chocolate shops with crystal chandeliers and shiny glass surfaces. There are would-be witches gathering herbs in Prospect Park while drones deliver parcels over their heads. There are protesters occupying building sites and drivers rolling their eyes at them, and more protesters offering roses to riot police. There are women disappearing from the streets of Vancouver, evicted men roaming San Francisco while Googlati ride by in private buses. There are gold coins in vaults and gold crosses hanging around the necks of Fox News commentators, and miners digging into Incan soil while Goldcore goes up a few more points on the Toronto Stock Exchange, while Xiomara looks out the window and cries, "No, I beg you, please, not my water." There are Renoir paintings and replicas of ancient Egyptian temples and Scotiabank-sponsored surtitles at the Canadian Opera Company's production of Rigoletto. There are trays and trays of plastic water bottles at every academic conference, in every windowless hotel banquet hall. There are bus maps and Gothic revival churches dwarfed by skyscrapers. There are gods and there is God, and how are any of us supposed to know the difference? There are steel mills and men working signs and stone-faced men and women in the waiting rooms of HIV testing centers. There are garbage continents in the Pacific and African valleys filled with broken cell phones. There are businessmen sipping cocktails in Grand Central Station before catching the train back to Scarsdale. There are turquoise beads hanging from garlands in the shops. There are big box stores and weeping statues, heaven and hell squeezed down to the size of a single tree. There are vans painted in William Blake drawings and underwater grids containing all the parts of ourselves we'd rather not have to see. There is toxic forgiveness floating like smog around those who haven't asked for it. There is the Bloor Viaduct built by the hands of the old dispossessed, now guarded by fences to keep the new dispossessed from jumping off. Is there any border, any ring, any outside to this system that holds us, this net that economists deem beautiful, an edge to the web that contains us like flies, a wormhole we might crawl through to another planet locked inside ours, waiting to burst into leaf? Is there a way to find the sea in the reflection of a building, to look up and see the sun? I see disasters and tears and gated communities patrolled by golden doodles. I see hatred in the shape of beauty, an onion of crystal ice. I see apartments and buzzers and kitchens and floors, groups of people scribbling post-it notes with the names of the famous and pasting them on their foreheads, an endless party game where we sip our wine and ask each other who we are.
Dane Swan is editor and publisher of the ebook anthology L... His collection, Bending the Continuum, was published by Guernica Editions in 2011. In February, Dane was writer-in-residence for Open Book Toronto. His second collection, A Mingus Lullaby, is slated for 2015 with Guernica. Everybody, please give a warm welcome to Dane Swan.
So the first one's called Armband Flotations. And myself and Sophie Staccato were in Ottawa. No one's going to boo that. We were in Ottawa this summer for a big social justice gathering. And our host, we were hanging out with our host, and it turned out that like a childhood sweetheart was now a very hard done by sex worker living on the streets, etc., etc. And he introduced us to her and had a pretty long conversation with her, and she was witty with the jokes and stuff, and sort of got a crush on her. So this poem's dedicated to her. It would be easy. Slip into a crevice. Live a wakened dream of radiant technicolor. Fade into a peaceful warmth. Smoke pipes by campfire and twilight's glow. Follow trails that lead to nowhere. Watch the world rush away in slow motion. The simple waltz of an easy life, prancing on tiptoes. In blackjack dreams we'll place hopscotch gambles on cold, damp spaces, perfect for infant portuguese. Disappear like the hue of dawns, hobble our clattering bones to wilting shelters. You'll forget me. Scroll gap-toothed graffiti on condemned derelict buildings. The etch-a-sketch images fall away when shaking. It would be really easy as we dive off each other's egos into the deep end. Sink beneath the chlorinated blue, forgetting to blow up our armbands. Pretend that we finally got to see the ocean. As the oxygen escapes, maybe we'll finally learn how to breathe. Second poem's titled Patsy Cline. I'm just the son of a car man, the brother of a school teacher, a pauper minstrel who never lies, nothing to be jealous of. Let's dance to Marvin and fall asleep to Patsy. On our bad days, I'll croon that one refrain from Bob Marley, share childish kisses with full-faced smiles that were once rumored to be extinct. Turns out one survived. You're welcome to steal my body heat, bury your head in my chest to hide tears, steal all the blankets in our sleep while I play the role of the strong one. We'll share this name of failure gracefully. Let others admire. I'll ask for this dance. Pull our frames together until the moment your breasts press against my frail chest. As wallflowers fade, we shall illuminate. When the lights in my eyes go out, they'll realize that you were my atlas, carrying my legacy through desolate spaces. In winter nights, sweet dreams will greet you, and I shall keep you warm. This is entitled Seeds. The words won't come out. I can't rationalize deaths. Could never calm the rage of aching hearts or turn fuckery into poetry. Someone's life has been cut short. They no longer exist. In my mind, pens and pencils rain down from skyscrapers, piercing passing cars like sharpened hailstones. I watch tears cascade down human cheeks as loved ones left behind try to commemorate past lives with smiles and libations. That is real. Death, pain, anguish is real. Feeling lost, sadness, depression, real. Poetry? Not so much. Where's the fire? The passion? The blood pouring from pen to page, the flint born to spark? I don't see it. Like the death of jazz, a soulless facsimile has filled the void written by people better than us, whose only goal is to feed their egos, by so-called academics who placate contemporaries with insider jokes and textbook theory, by spoiled brats who will never fully grasp the meaning of the seven-letter word. Enough is enough. In Ottawa, the kids are stabbing each other. In Chicago, they're using guns. Down south, authorities think habeas corpus is at the discretion of their trigger finger. And in Toronto, one of the few voices who remembered what this is supposed to be was struck by a train. On our 2-hour trip to console his friends, the ones who were texting him mere hours after he passed, I reminded my close friend and collaborative partner that on one of our worst days, he was the only person who came up to us and gave us words of encouragement. 2 hours later, we drink the incredibly bad beer that was purchased for him to drink, that lay orphaned in our host's fridge. Watch held-back tears, play poetry tag, and return home to our lives carrying the seeds of future legends. And we shall all write poetry. Poetry that remembers. Poets are the voice of the people. Poets are the voice of the people. Poets are the voice of the people. We are no better than the people, for we are the people. We shall fit the perfection of academic structure by destiny, not intent. Our words shall birth flames from embers, reviving a sputtering art form as black pens spill red ink mid-verse with the hope that his spirit reach the sky. We pause, pour our drinks to the earth, and when we finally fall to sleep, we shall hear Mozart's Requiem Mass in D minor, hoping that one day we shall be humble enough for poets to remember our names, just as we shall